Is Auburn close to adding another top wide receiver to the recruiting class?
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie 5.
So we're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie 5, and we are ready to get after it. Is Auburn on commit watch today? A big target is ready to pull the trigger this evening. Where does Auburn stand? What could they be getting if they land this kid? And then we'll talk about recruiting strategies as well as just wide receiver recruiting in general over the last couple of years. All that in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to Rowback.com. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. Polos, hoodies, shorts, joggers, pants, doesn't matter. They got a little bit of everything that you could be looking for. You can go as crazy as you want. Or you can go as classic as you want. They got something for everybody. They even have Auburn licensed apparel. Should be dropping some new stuff for game day coming very soon. So check them out. It's rowback.com. Jace Matthews, wide receiver from Greene County. I think he's just recently transferred there. Same high school as, I believe, Deuce. But I don't think they played together. He's ready to pull the trigger. He's been an Auburn target since the beginning. Auburn was on him even before his ranking skyrocketed. Again, he's got a ceremony prepared for this evening. I think he pulls the trigger around 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And hopefully Auburn's in a spot where you can add this kid to the class. You're talking big time. Okay, let's talk about who you're getting, who you'd be getting if you get Jace Matthews. Right off the bat, the measurable 6'2", 180. And you can tell when you watch the film, you can see the length. It's a good 6'2". He's got long arms. He can go up and high point the ball. The cool thing about his highlight film is, especially in like the first couple of plays, he shows like the different aspects of all the different aspects of what you want to see in a wide receiver. In other words, not just like a one-trick pony. He's not just a deep threat guy. He can get off the ball. He can get off a press. He can, catch the ball in traffic. He can go up on a high point and hit the back shoulder. He can take a short pass and take it to the house. Like, got good speed. He just seems like a big all-around, really good wide receiver. Really, really kind of reminds me of a little bit more maybe explosive Sam Turner. Like that's what his film kind of looks like to me. Just a really polished guy that can maybe a little bit more top-end speed than Sam Turner. He played in 10 games last year. He had 68 catches, so right at 7 catches a game, 1,138 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns in 10 games, and 1,500 all-purpose yards. So he's even a threat out of the backfield for them and in the return game as well. So big time guy. Okay. This is not just any other wide receiver. He is also a top 100 player. So he's the number 83 overall player according to Rivals industry ranking, which is basically where they take all the sites, add them up, and come up with an average. He would be our top player in the class if Auburn is able to pull this one off this evening. So a cool thing about it, though, is Rivals, so you got Rivals 247 and ESPN. Rivals, so they got their industry ranking. Well, they also have their regular ranking, okay, where Rivals ranks it, and then they calculate their ranking in with everybody else to come up with that industry ranking. Rivals has this kid as the number 2 overall wide receiver just in general, and a number 17 player in the country. Why is that significant? I know I joke around, and basically if the whatever site has a kid the highest, I'll joke around and say, I always thought they had so-and-so service has the best rankings. This is why, to me, it's a big deal, even if only one site is sort of overvaluing a guy. I look at a guy like Blake Woodby. Blake Woodby's rankings were inconsistent across all three sites. I think ESPN actually had him as a 5-star, whereas the others had him either as a mid to high 4-star. So what that means is at least some set of eyes that are highly qualified in evaluating talent see that this kid's a player, like an elite player, like one of the best in the country. And with Blake Woodby, it's translating. You see Blake Woodby getting a lot of love, running some reps even with the first team at times, at maybe that nickelback. Definitely going to crack the I definitely think he's going to get some playing time this year. He's really being raved upon as a true freshman in a loaded defensive backfield. I mean, those corners are freaking unreal, guys. I went to practice yesterday again, and we talked about it on the barn. The corners are unbelievable, and Blake Woodby is talked about as, he's up there with. There's not a ton of separation between him and some of the better ones. So I say all that to say, I don't necessarily want to put a ton of stock in saying he's a future 5-star, because if his ranking remains the same on Rivals as the number 17 overall player, they typically give out after football season starts. They kind of model this after the NFL draft, 32 5-stars. Okay. Because there's 32 picks in the first round. So if he's the 17th player and they haven't given out all the 5-stars yet, and his ranking stays there, at least on Rivals, he will be a 5-star if he stays right there. I'm not going to call him a 5-star guy. I got kind of made people mad when I did that about Brody Shull last year, and he ended up not being a 5-star, even though he was also one of those guys that was one site had him in the top 32, before they handed out all their 5-stars, but he dropped below that. I don't know that Jace is going to be much of a threat to drop below that 32, just because he's a really elite player. If you already got him at 17, I don't know what could happen to make you want to drop him, beyond that. Really good player. I said again, really good player. One site values him even like extremely to the high end of their evaluation of talent. They put him at the very top of the list, close to the top of the list. 247, he's a top 200 player, and on ESPN, he's a top 250 player. So unanimously a 4-star, and Rivals even thinks that much more highly of him. So great kid, got some Auburn ties, got some ties to Hugh Freeze. His cousin, I think I've mentioned this before, but his cousin is Dante Moncrief, wide receiver that I think obviously played at Ole Miss, and then I think went to the Colts maybe. So that's his cousin. And then his mother played basketball at, I think, Greene County High School, and the person that helped start the women's basketball program at Greene County was Ruthie Bolton. She was an assistant coach. So obviously everybody knows Ruthie. She has a documentary out, and she also has her jersey in the rafters. So a lot of Auburn ties. You got to get this one. This is one of those ones I think that I listed as low-hanging fruit and not a negative connotation, not like picking off easy guys, but this is a guy that you got a bunch of connections to. This is a guy that you have Auburn ties to. You have Hugh Freeze ties to, a position that you want to get at least one or two big ones every single year. And you don't have a big class right now. You could put a ton of focus on getting a top 100 player and really sort of ramp up your, not ramp up, but really sort of, I don't know, maybe get the juices going, get a couple of big ones in under your belt before the season starts. Because then, you're going to be locked into the football season, and then you're honestly going to have to start looking towards flipping some kids. So really need to land this one. There's several predictions in for him to Auburn. It seems like the momentum is moving in Auburn's direction, but you got to close. And who knows what could happen between now and 6 p.m. Could there be a last-minute bag drop from somebody? Hopefully it's Auburn, and hopefully they got this thing hemmed up. So we'll see what happens. Jace Matthews, if he ends up at Auburn this evening, be very, very excited. This kid is going to be really, really good. I want to talk about wide receiver recruiting as a whole, and then just recruiting outlook. Saw a really cool tweet I want to share. We'll be back and talk about that right after this. Wide receiver recruiting as a whole has been pretty amazing over the last couple of years, and you're going to see this year the result of that. You're going to see the fruits of that labor and how different things look when these guys go out on the field. So if you get Jace Matthews, that'll give you 3 classes in a row where you've landed at least one top 100 player who is a wide receiver, okay? Not a top 100 wide receiver, a top 100 player who just so happens to be a wide receiver. So you have obviously Cam Coleman, who was the number 4 overall player. And then you have Perry Thompson, who was the number 48 overall player. In that 2024 class, you had Duke Smith, who was an athlete, but now he's going to end up being he's going to be a really good wide receiver. He actually fell out of the top 100. That's interesting. He fell out of the top 100. Regardless, he's right there on the borderline. He's a really, really good wide receiver. Y'all are going to be very impressed with him. I think he's going to see some playing time as a true freshman. And then you turn around and do you possibly add Jace Matthews? That'd be 3 classes in a row where you have a top high-end wide receiver that you add to the room. And that's what you have to do. You can't just have that one big class and then expect, and then expect that that's going to be enough. You got to keep it. You got to keep it going. So being able to add a guy like Jace Matthews to this group, I think it just kind of signifies, especially if you can show the results on the field, it just sort of signifies the shift and it signifies the emphasis that Hugh Freeze puts on that side of the ball, and especially in the wide receiver room, and what he can do when he has receivers like those. I saw a screenshot the other day, and it was somebody sent it to me actually on like maybe Facebook, believe it or not. And it was the top all-time receivers, I think the top 10 all-time receivers in Ole Miss history. And if I'm not mistaken, I think 5 of them played for Hugh Freeze. One of them was a tight end, obviously Evan Ingram, but still, that's the kind of guys he brings in, and that's the kind of results he typically puts out. He's going to have some baller wide receivers wherever he goes. He even had some at Liberty. I think one of them is going to play for LSU this year. So Jace would definitely fit right in as far as the prototype of what Hugh Freeze is looking for in a wide receiver. So good stuff there. They may look to add one more. Not really sure exactly who that target could be. there's, again, a ton of people are committed elsewhere. So not 1,000% sure. I think they'd be happy if with just Jace, and you may go look at adding someone else. It could be a lower rated guy, but regardless, you got you a top 100 player who just so happens to be a wide receiver. And if you can keep continuing that trend, every single class, you're always going to have dudes. You're just always going to have guys back there. So really, really good stuff. Recruiting outlook as a whole. Okay. I know everybody expected. I hope everybody didn't expect. I tried to make sure that there were no expectations that after August 1st, you're just going to start seeing this flurry of commitments, flurry of flips. I think August 1st was just a date where Auburn could sort of really get a better idea of where they stand with a lot of guys. And then you can take that information and decide which direction that you wish to go. I think that it kind of gave you a little bit more clarity on where you stand with Jace, so you could put the finishing touches on, his recruitment and hopefully go ahead and land him. I think it tells you where you stand for the most part with a guy like Braylon Womack, and then several other flip targets that you may be looking at. Steve Wiltfong had a really fun tweet. He said that Auburn has injected the roster with 2 top 10 recruiting classes and what should be several impact transfers, compete for a playoff spot, and they'll be Spatula U. I love that. Spatula U at the end of this 2026 cycle. So what Wiltfong is saying there is Auburn, this roster's pretty daggone good. And they've sort of positioned themselves that if Auburn can go on a run, if Auburn can be successful this year, and they're going to have to, you're going to start having to flip. They're going to be prime candidate to flip some guys towards the end of this class to finish out this class. And you're going to have to do that because I think I saw something the other day that something in the neighborhood of only like 14 of the top 150 players, maybe it was 14 of the top 100 are uncommitted. Okay. So their kids are committed right now. You got Jace right now that's going to pull the trigger this evening, hopefully for Auburn. You'll have Braylon Womack that's uncommitted, that's out there that you're looking at. And then as far as like top end players, there's not many left, that aren't committed somewhere. So you're going to have to get out the Spatula. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun t-shirt to have if Auburn really does start going out and flipping dudes. Maybe the Spatula it has an A and a U in it. Maybe you make those stand out. Spatula with the A big and the U big. That'd be kind of fun. Regardless, I don't think that we learned as much from the August 1st date. You heard that from Hugh Freeze in his post-practice press conference yesterday. I think we learned some, but I don't think we learned as much as we thought we would learn. So you gotta adjust, and you're already seeing Auburn get guys commit to coming in for official visits, coming in for games. One being the number 1 offensive tackle in the country, Emmanuel Iheanacho, still recruiting him. And I think, honestly, it's all about the position. It's all about the situation, and it's all about the money there. So if you basically can decide if that's the guy that you think could step in and be your left tackle moving forward for the next 3 years, and it's worth it, I think the money's there. You just got to figure out how to justify it through the clearinghouse once they get here and seal the deal. So should be a fun ride. If Auburn can win and win early and build the momentum, this could be a fun end to the recruiting class. I'd love for Auburn to lock up Jace today, get Braylon in towards the end of August. Then you feel good. You feel good about the direction. You feel good about the class overall, and you got a really good pathway to pick off another 4 or 5 guys and be somewhere in that top 20, top 15 neighborhood, which is when you have a smaller class, I think that's all you can really ask for. So if Auburn, worst case scenario, I've said this on multiple shows, if somehow, some way, Jace Matthews doesn't end up at Auburn tonight, I would say that would be time to maybe sound an alarm a little bit. I know I'm super positive. I know I'm a glass half full guy typically, but I would say that there is a malignant issue a lot deeper if you don't get a kid like Jace Matthews. Now, it doesn't mean you won't ever get him. Doesn't mean you can't flip him. But I think we're past that. Okay? It's August now. It's getting close to the season. Flips are going to get tougher and tougher. I think we're past that. I think this is a guy that you need to get right now. And I don't really see him as being one, just based off what I'm hearing about him, I don't see him as being one that's going to be bouncing around. I think whoever he commits to, he's going to be locked in. So if that doesn't happen tonight, I'm going to be very concerned about recruiting. It's just truth. There's something more going on behind the scenes than what we're being told if that doesn't happen. I feel like it will, though, and we won't have to have that conversation. So let me know what you think about Jace Matthews. I think it's going to be a huge shot in the arm for Auburn recruiting, huge shot in the arm as far as positivity goes with the fan base. And we will hopefully can keep that momentum rolling and get another big one towards the end of the month. And then let's play some dadgum football. I'm ready to play some tackle dadgum football. Practice has got me jacked up. Watching all the battles has got me jacked up. I'm ready for some football. Ready for Baylor. We'll talk again soon, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Another great week of shows. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay button.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.